Hey everyone, and welcome. Today we're going to dive deep into something that's a core pillar of cloud security, Azure Network Security Groups, or NSGs. If you really want to master how to control traffic in your Azure environment, you're in exactly the right place. Let's get into it.
So let's just start with the big question, right? You've got your virtual machines, your databases, all these resources running in your Azure network. How do you actually control who gets to talk to what? This is the fundamental problem that network security groups are built to solve.
All right, so the easiest way to think about an NSG, it's basically a virtual bouncer. You know, like a firewall standing at the door of your resources. Its one and only job is to check every single packet of data trying to get in or out and decide, hey, are you on the list?
Okay, so here's the more, official way of putting it. At its core, an NSG is a traffic filter. It's really just a container for a list of security rules, an access control list, that explicitly says allow or deny to traffic coming to or from your Azure resources. That's really it.
So, how does our virtual bouncer actually decide who gets in and who gets turned away? It doesn't just glance at who's knocking. It uses a really specific set of criteria for every single connection. This is basically how an NSG thinks. You see, every single packet of data that comes through gets inspected against these 5 key pieces of information. This is what we call the five-tuple. It's the source and destination IPs, the source and destination ports, and the protocol it's using, like TCP or UDP. It's literally the who, where, and how for every single connection.
And this is one of my favorite things about NSGs. They're stateful. What that means is, if you create a rule that lets a connection out, the NSG is smart enough to remember that conversation. So when the response comes back, it automatically allows it back in. This is huge. It saves you from writing a ton of extra rules just for return traffic. Okay, listen up, because if you take away just one thing from this whole explainer, let it be this. When it comes to NSG rules, priority is everything. It is the single most important concept to understand if you want your rules to work the way you expect them to. So every rule you make, and I mean every single one, has to have a priority number. And that number has to fall somewhere in this range, from 100 all the way up to 4096.
And here's the part that can trip people up, so it's super important. The lower the number, the higher the priority. A rule with priority 100 is way more important and will always get checked before a rule with priority 4000. Just think of it like getting in line. The lowest numbers always get to go first.
And this is why that whole priority thing is so critical. When traffic hits your NSG, Azure starts with the lowest priority number and goes down the list. The very first rule that matches that traffic's five-tuple, that's the one that wins. Period. The action is taken, and boom, processing stops right there. It doesn't even look at any of the other rules below it. Now, here's a fun fact. When you create a brand new NSG, you might think it's totally empty, right? Well, it's not. Azure actually puts in a set of default rules to act as a kind of safety net, just to make sure basic things can work.
Here are the big ones for inbound traffic. Check out those priority numbers. We're talking 65,000. They're way up there, which means they have super low priority. And then you've got this one at the very end, DenyAllInbound. That's your ultimate safety net. It's the deny everything else rule.
Now, you can't actually delete these guys, but honestly, you don't need to. Because their priority is so incredibly low, you can easily override them. Just create your own rule, say to allow web traffic on port 443 with a priority of like 200. Your rule will get processed long before that final deny all rule even gets a look.
Okay, so this all sounds great when you have a few VMs, but what happens when your cloud environment explodes in size? Well, trying to manage rules based on individual IP addresses becomes a total nightmare. It just doesn't scale. Thankfully, Azure has some powerful tools to help us manage rules in a much smarter way.
So, let's talk about 3 awesome features that are going to make your life so much easier. Augmented security rules, service tags, and application security groups. Each one of these is designed to solve a specific problem with managing rules as you grow.
First up, augmented rules. Oh man, these are fantastic. What they let you do is bundle a bunch of different IP addresses or IP ranges and even different port numbers all into one single clean rule. This just dramatically cuts down on the clutter and the number of rules you have to manage. Next up, we have service tags. Just think of these as shortcuts that Microsoft manages for you. So instead of having to look up and maintain a giant, ever-changing list of all the IP addresses for something like Azure Storage, you just use the storage service tag. Microsoft does all the hard work of keeping the list updated. It's an absolute game changer.
And last but not least, application security groups, or ASGs. This is where things get really smart. ASGs let you stop thinking about individual IP addresses and start thinking about your application's structure. You can create a logical group called web servers, put all your web server VMs into it, and then just write a rule that says, allow traffic to the web servers group. It's so much more intuitive.
Okay, but what if you're, say, a central security admin and you need to lay down the law? You need to enforce a critical security rule across the entire organization, one that no one can accidentally mess with or override. For that, there's an even higher level of control.
Well, for that, you have something called security admin rules. They are set at a much higher level. And here's the absolute most important thing to remember about them. They are always evaluated before your regular local NSG rules. No exceptions. This really breaks it down perfectly. Think about it this way. Security admin rules are the big guns for global enforcement, like a company-wide ban on an insecure port. NSG rules are for your local specific needs at the subnet or network card level. If an admin rule says deny, that traffic is blocked, and your NSG rules don't even get a say. It's the ultimate trump card.
So there you have it. You've got the tools now, from the basic five-tuple logic and the all-important rule priority to smarter grouping with ASGs and even the ultimate power of security admin rules. The big question I'll leave you with is this. Now that you know how to control the flow, what kind of security fortress are you going to build for your cloud? Thanks for joining me on this one.